Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. The morning sun crept over the horizon, casting long shadows across the worn stones of Rome. The city stirred to life, merchants setting out their wares, senators in togas gathering for the day's political games, and the ever-present murmur of the populace eager for spectacle. But deep beneath this grandeur, in the bowels of the Colosseum, a man named Marcus took his first breath as a gladiator, his heart pounding with a terror that the crowds above could never imagine. Marcus was a slave, born in the fertile lands of Judea. Once a shepherd's son, now a prisoner of Rome, stripped of freedom and dignity. Yet despite the chains upon his wrists and the rough tunic that marked his servitude, clasped tightly within the folds of his garments was something far more precious and dangerous, a small relic. It was a fragment of wood, no larger than his palm, believed to be a piece of the true cross upon which Christ had been crucified. To many, it was superstition. To Marcus, it was the last vestige of hope and faith in a world slipping into darkness. His masters thought him just another fighter, a pawn in their deadly games. But Marcus nurtured a secret more potent than iron or bloodlust. The day he was torn from the quiet hills of his homeland, his mother, a devout woman of the early faith, pressed this relic into his hands with trembling fingers and whispered, "Keep it safe, my son. Our God watches over those who suffer in silence." Now, as the iron gates creaked open, and the deafening roar of the crowd rose like a storm, Marcus stepped out onto the sandy arena, blinking as the sunlight scorched his skin. The vast amphitheater was filled to capacity, the stands brimming with Roman citizens and visitors from across the empire. They were hungry for death, for heroism, for a tale to cheer or jeer as the blood spilled upon the sands. Marcus's palms were slick with sweat, he could barely lift his sword. Opposite him, a towering figure clad in gleaming armor and wielding a curved sword grinned arrogantly. This was Lucius, a veteran gladiator known as the Lion of Rome. Years of battles had hardened him, and tonight he was sure to add another kill to his legend. The tension held in the air was suffocating. "Show them your fury, slave," Lucius jeered, stepping forward, his voice carrying through the arena. Marcus gripped the hilt of his gladius, fighting to control his trembling hands. It was not only his life at stake but the secret he bore. The relic beneath his tunic, a fragile token of a faith that was outlawed and hunted, could not be lost. If it fell into the hands of the Roman prefects or the Praetorian Guard, it would mean torture and death, not only for him but for the network of believers hidden within the city's shadows. The trumpet blared, a fierce, sunlit cry that marked the beginning of the combat. The crowd's roar grew louder, a chaotic swell that threatened to swallow him whole. Marcus steadied his breath, glimpsing the glint of Lucius's blade as it struck out in a vicious arc. He dodged, the sand kicking up around his feet, heart pounding so loud it was all he could hear. Every movement was instinct and will. The thrill of the fight, that desperate surge for survival, merged with a deeper resolve. The sacred burden he carried must live beyond this moment. It was then, in the midst of the deadly dance, that Marcus felt a spark of clarity, not just fear, but faith. He remembered his mother's voice, the quiet prayers whispered at dawn, the promise of redemption. Fighting here was not simply for himself but for something greater. A testimony to a faith that even Rome could not extinguish. The battle swayed. Lucius's confidence began to falter as Marcus, drawing on every ounce of cunning, managed to parry a fatal blow and deliver a counterstrike. A cheer erupted from the stands. The slave had shown courage. The gods might be watching after all. But fate was not yet done. Lucius lunged again, fierce and unrelenting, and Marcus felt the burn of a cut along his side. Blood blossomed beneath his tunic. With a howl of pain, he stumbled back, clutching the relic through the fabric, feeling its rough edges against his palm. In that instant, an idea struck him, a prayer infused with determination. If he could survive this, if he could protect the relic and reach the hidden catacombs where believers gathered, maybe the sacrifice would mean something lasting. The duel drew to a crescendo, blades flashing in the sun, muscles burning, spirits testing limits. Finally, Marcus found an opening, a quick, precise thrust, and Lucius faltered, collapsing with a heavy thud. The crowd roared, some in shock, others chanting the slave's name. Marcus stood, the pain in his side a fiery testament to his survival. The sands beneath him were a cruel altar, but he was still breathing. And the relic, pressed tight to his chest, remained safe. As the Emperor's representatives signaled the end of the fight, Marcus allowed himself a brief moment. They would find favor, they would speak of him tonight. But now, stronger than any chain was the knowledge that he carried a spark, a flame of hope that no arena or empire could crush. He turned his face towards the shadows beyond the stands, where the faithful waited in secret. The dance of survival had only begun, but Marcus was ready. For in the heart of Rome, amid stones soaked with blood and tears, the crucible of faith and courage was kindling a revolution. For more stories, like and subscribe.